After his arrest, Jesus had been brought before Caiaphas, the Jewish high priest, and late into the night, against all legal protocol, he had been tried, found guilty, and sent onward to Pontius Pilate for sentencing. Deep down, Pilate knew Jesus was innocent. He understood he was deemed a threat to the priesthood, and this was why they had orchestrated the case against him. Jesus had told them openly when asked, "Are you the Messiah, Son of the living God?" "You have said so," he replied, "but I tell you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven." And the high priest had torn his robes then, and on charges of blasphemy sent Jesus to Pilate for sentencing. And when Pilate asked again the same question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" he replied, "You say that I am king." Pilate pressed him to say more, and asked Jesus if he was aware he had the power to either free or condemn him. And Jesus knew, yet remained silent, and Pilate greatly marvelled at his composure. Now, as well we all know, there was a tradition at the time of the Passover for certain criminals to be released. A mocking crowd had followed Jesus from the house of Caiaphas, a crowd stirred by the priesthood in their disdain. This crowd now waited and watched beyond the walls of Herod's house, where Pilate resided over the festival. And they were a crowd totally unlike that which had welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem just a few days before, and they were baying for his conviction. And secretly amongst them had been Peter, whose story we shall take up briefly here. For as they had waited for news near the house of Caiaphas, a girl had recognized him and come forward and said, "This man also was with him." But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." Then another recognized him and called her friends and said aloud, "This is one of them. He was with Jesus." And again he denied it. And they insisted, and he swore he did not know him, and invoked God to be his judge. And the cock crowed, and each time he remembered Jesus saying he would deny him, and he wept, knowing his life was saved, but his soul was lost. And he went away then, but the crowd, now baying for blood, went on. Now there was a criminal named Barabbas, who was then brought forward, and Pilate, having found no fault with Jesus, cried out, "Who shall I give you today? Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" And the crowd cried, "Barabbas, Barabbas." "What then shall I do with Jesus?" asked Pilate. "What evil hath he done?" "Crucify him, crucify him," they called back as one voice. And when Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See to it." Then answered all the people and said, "His blood be on us and on our children." Barabbas was then released, and Jesus was given over to be scourged and stripped of his clothes and driven onward to Calvary, bearing his cross. A crown of twisted thorns was thrust upon his head, and all along the way he was mocked and jeered and spat at, as a common criminal might be. And the people, fickle as they were, and so permeable to corruption, cried out and laughed and spat as he staggered on. And when at last, while the day was still young, he came to the place where the story was to end, and he was mounted and nailed upon his cross, and it was lifted up midst two common robbers. And soldiers kept guard throughout, for he was to be an example, and they threw lots for his clothing. And then at noontide a great shadow fell suddenly over the earth, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. And one of the centurions there beside him cried, "Truly, this is the Son of God." And Jesus called out for the last time, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" And calling so, he drew his last breath and died. Joseph of Arimathea then went to Pilate to ask if he might take the body for burial, and he agreed. And then Jesus was lifted down from the cross and placed into the arms of Mary the mother and Mary Magdalene, and all wept in their sorrow, even the angels in the skies above. The story tells that on the third day there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him the keepers did shake, and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly, and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you. And they departed quickly from the sepulchre, with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. In all great myths, there is this motif of healing and renewal, for all reflect the same deeply rooted pattern that we see recurring endlessly throughout the cosmos and within nature herself, a sacred cycle of birth, death, and renewal. When Christ defies death and rises from his tomb, he personifies this great truth and shifts it dimensionally. He elevates it to a higher octave. He is born again, yet not as before. He has become luminous, a light body, here and not here, like Giotto's angels depicted coming momentarily into form, into view, yet incorporeal in their essence. His wounds are visible, and yet he is transcendent of them, which is the hope, of course, for all of us dying and moving beyond the material world. The resurrection is like the Mass in a way, like baptism, confirmation, marriage and the taking of holy vows, sacraments, all reflecting transitions from one part of life to another, yet also, potentially, transitions from one state of consciousness to another. They are mysteries to be pondered, yet never fully known. Times were when they were more directly referred to as initiations, a language closer to the ancient world and to myth. When the hero or heroine returns from the underworld, they return from periods of deep initiation, and they come back utterly changed. The point of the adventure, the trial, the test, the falling away of the known world, and all the rest, is precisely this. Oftentimes, it feels like part of us is dying, and in many ways this is true, for the hard truth is, we must die in order to be renewed. This is the essence of transformation, of shifting energetically to a new consciousness. It is said that after his crucifixion, Jesus descended into the underworld, and that there was a great harrowing of hell, whilst on earth darkness descended. Symbolically, this corresponds to the phase of the dark moon that the ancients called the land of no return, for at such times no one knew if the light would ever return. And so it must have been, especially for Mary his mother, and Mary Magdalene, and all those who loved Jesus. And so it had been for Demeter, whose daughter was lost beneath the world, and for countless other grieving goddesses, whose pitiful cries of lament for their beloved lost ones came to populate mythology from the 3rd millennium onwards. They are known as the sorrowing mothers of the world. In dying and being reborn, Christ and his beloveds, his enemies too, partake of this ancient mystery, rooted as we have seen in nature herself, in the psyche and in the sacred cycle of life. It is a story created and recreated across time, since people first used language, and always it is told that the great ones will return to the earth at springtime, when the crescent moon is in the sky, mirroring the rebirth and renewal of the land after the darkness of winter. I slept, sings Solomon's bride, but my heart is awakened. Listen, it is the voice of my lover calling. The winter is past, and the rain is over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. This is when Jesus returns to us, all but briefly, with all the symbolism of spring and of love. He comes back to show, as we are told, the crown of his teaching, the mystical element and reality of the soul in its eternity and perfection. I am the way, he tells us, not just to adore and to worship, but also to follow and to ultimately become. The words are open to interpretation, of course, and can be read on several levels, from the literal to the metaphysical, and all are true. Like any truly great story, light streams from it in every direction.